Okay, cool. So all we're doing so far is connecting our project to version control within the editor to do multi-user editing. So I had to go to plugins and I had to find multi-user editing and turn it on. And then I went, what I did was I edited that U project file, and then I pushed it to the server so everyone had it turned off, right? Then you need to make sure that you have the right folders synced. We've already set this up in the previous weeks. It's just this is here as a standalone reminder for if you're just doing multi-user and you haven't been doing version control. And then we need to set up some settings within our project. And this is the part where you guys are going to follow along with me, and that we'll just try to be precise and clear on all the different steps. Okay. So, all these things about a VPN, we already talked about before. I'm going to be hosting the server, so it's not that big of an issue for you to know these steps, only if you want to run it on your own with your own friends on your own project. But I will be opening up the computer on in the mocap room to host a server, and you'll see, and I'll show you the steps to doing that. So I'll pull, and it now has the most recent version, and now I can open it up.
My content still has a yellow tag on it, and it's been from that the map, the U map.
Yeah. I said it's like just delete it and pull again. Yeah, just inside of Explorer, just delete those files and you pull it, and it'll get you a fresh copy. Don't ever do that for force, but that's fine for subversion. Okay, so when I put up here, let's go back. So I'm going to be hosting the server first, so just watch. If you're hosting a server, you need to go to the project settings, make sure multi-user editing is on. Already done that, and then we need to go to the multi-user settings and set what server to use. Their documentation says to use port 6666. That does not work because the launcher uses that same port and blocks that port. They haven't changed the documentation yet, so we're going to use port 7000. I'll show you what that means. Project settings, edit, project settings, and now in your plugins you have multi-user editing. And everyone should actually do this step together. So I got on the multi-user editing, and now you can change a couple of settings. Your display name, right? So I'm going to do this remotely, actually. So project settings, multi-user editing, put in the display name, right? So this is mocap computer. You could change the color if you want to, right? Mine, I changed it to a NYU violet. And then the one number to change is you put, there's a 0 here for server port, twirl down the advanced and put 7000 right there. This is, and if you have the presentation open, this is exactly what I'm talking about, all set up for you. If you want to, you can enable adding another button to your editor. You will have to restart the project if you do that, but it saves you one less click, right? Essentially what that does is it adds the multi-user button to your layout, right? So everyone should go ahead and do this, and just give your name, give yourself a color, and put in port 7000. Already done here. And does that all make sense to everyone? We can move on. All right, moving on. So the next area we're going, or actually go to the presentation, is UDP messaging. And this, again, this is just for me because I'm hosting. So I'm going to go down to UDP messaging all the way at the bottom. And I'm going to take my unicast endpoint and I'm going to leave it blank. All right. And then I'm going to hit the plus element, it adds a new text field here. And then I'm going to put the URL, sorry, the IP address of my server computer port 7000. And I will copy and paste that into the chat for everyone there. And I'll toss it into Slack as well. All right. So this is just me for right now. And this is set up. That's all.
Todd, can you repeat the multi-user editing like option, like the project setting? I missed that, the port.
The port? Yeah, sure. It's 7000. So go to your plugin. So project settings,
Yeah.
plugins, multi-user, and then there's this advanced little twirl down.
Yeah.
And then that 7000 goes there.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for speaking up. I want everyone to do this. It's so much fun. So the host leaves it blank, and the host puts the server computer number down here in this space. All right. So the host is then going to either go to a multi-user browser in Windows, or click the link and say launch server, and it will open up the server. You might want to, if you before you go through all this, you might want to ping test the server first, right? So I'm locally here at my home computer or my computer, North Carolina, and I'm going to say ping, and it's 192.168.196.120, and I could say, oh look, I'm pinging it, so there shouldn't be any connection issues. Our VPN is working correctly. Or you can just dive right in, right? So if I go back now to my multi-user settings, I could just launch a server. The server is another window that opens up that's just a command prompt. And what's cool about the server is that if my Unreal crashes, the server won't crash. So none of my changes will be lost if the host computer crashes. This is a really smart feature. Right, so this is its own standalone application that is all it's doing is it's now our own source control for this session. All right. As a server, again, this is only on this computer remotely. I'm now going to open up the session browser, and I'm going to create a session. Right. This could also launch the server right now, or I can shut down the server right here. But I'm going to launch a session, and I'm going to call it in class. All right. So now it's created a session called mocap computer. And this is where everything is stored. Now, again, this is just for the server. No one else should be doing this right now. I shouldn't see another one. So if there's two, then we might have a real big issue. Thank you. That's for your hosting server. All right. So this is what we just said. Create a session. It's either up here or right here, and then create name it whatever you want. Cool. Oh no. Now this is for your folks. This is what you're supposed to do. To join that session that I just created, go down to UDP messaging and click the drop down and choose your VPN IP address. So I'm now at my computer locally, project settings, all the way down to UDP messaging. And remember that our VPN is 192.168.196, and then whatever the last three numbers that you get from zero tier. If you need to be reminded what your zero tier IP is, you can right click, go to virtual production, and look at your managed addresses there. Or you can do an IP config on your command prompt or terminal and find zero tier, and then find the one that's 192.168.196 and the last three digits. So it's cool. You were able to choose it from the dropdown, which is super nice. That's a new feature for 5. Okay, so that's the first thing on here. And then you need to go down to the static endpoints and hit the plus button and type in the server computer :7000. Right, so that's what I copied and pasted inside of our Slack right here. So just copy and paste that. Go to Unreal, hit the plus button for static endpoints and put that address here. I'll just leave this up so you guys can see it.
And when we're done, do we just do set as default?
You mean enabled by default?
Yeah.
I've never checked it. I don't know. I don't know what any of the other things do besides these things. So you could try it and let us know how it goes.
I think I'll hold off.
Yeah, we might get a little saucy later on. I'm sure we'll see these as we use this more. We'll have more features. So this is how we can. We'll just have multi-user sessions open during the class time, so all the changes will be done simultaneously. Cool. So if anyone needs me to hold off, let me know. But this again is the presentations in the syllabus. And this is all you're doing on UDP messaging tab, which is at the bottom of your project settings. Choosing your own IP address from your 0 tier. And putting the server computer :7000, which I put in the Slack channel for you. And then magically, if you go to either window multi-user browser or these dots right here and say multi-user browser, you should see in class. And you could double click on it. Look at that. Look at that. My God, it's working. Stop it. My window's acting weird. So I actually just closed down my project, but you know the server's still running. You put it back up. So everyone still should be connected. And you get to see me do it again myself.
Can I ask a quick question while we're waiting?
Mhm.
For your own address that you got from 0 tier, do you need a colon and like a port at all, or just the address?
And the up top, it's a drop-down menu, so you shouldn't be able to type in anything.
I see. Okay. I think I did type it in, but I'll go back and do the drop down.
Just a question, Todd. Going back to the multi-user editing, the only thing I needed to do in that multi-user editing plugin was the 7000. Was there something else prior
Yes.
to that? That's it.
You could put your display name and change the avatar color if you want to.
Okay, that's the only thing. Okay.
Yep. And then UDP messaging, it looks like it's a :0 behind your own number, your own IP, but it's you can just choose it from the drop down.
Thank you.
So I'll join on this. Yep.
My 0 tier IP address looks different than what it is on the unicast endpoint, but I'm not sure which one is the correct one. In the drop down, I have something like how we are sharing your screen. So should I just choose one of the IP address?
Your IP address should be should be this one.
It's not there. It's not the same one. Yeah.
Okay. So if I were you, I would open up 0 tier
Okay.
and then disconnect and reconnect. And then if you're on Windows, a blue menu will come out from the side and saying, do you want this computer to be visible in the network? And say yes to it. If you say no, 0 tier won't work for you. So you want to make sure that you say yes when that blue window opens up.
Okay, I'll try that.
Oh, are you a PC?
Yeah. No, laptop. I mean, like,
Yeah. But are you on Windows? Sorry.
Yeah, Windows.
Okay, so yeah, make sure that blue window opens up. And sometimes if you have your VPN on and you turn off your computer, you close the lid or whatever, maybe sometimes it has to be disconnected and reconnected.
Okay.
All right, so I'm now going to join with my laptop and I see that we have some folks here. So we have a few people here hanging out. We have somebody named Mocap, and we have somebody named Mocap Computer, so that's interesting. We have me, and we have a few other people. And we can see each other as we run around. But what this is no longer just that design template. We're not even hitting the play button, right? We are just inside the editor, and we can do anything to this map we want to do. But let's not mess up this map. What we're gonna do is we're gonna play hide and seek. I'm gonna go to the content folder, assets. I'm gonna open up a folder for maps, and I'm gonna create a new blank level, and I'm gonna call it in class. I double click and go in it. And now if you go back to your multi-user browser, if you look for Todd, you see that I'm now on a different map. That should be a link for you. If you double click that link, you will find me, and you'll be able to join that map. See? So everyone's slowly finding me, and now we're in this blank map together, right? So we don't have to be in the same map. We could be all in the same project, doing different things in different maps, which I think is also super cool. And then if you see too many people, you can always turn off the eyeball if you don't want to look at them. Or if you want to find where they are, you can also just click this little jump to the presence location of this client, and it'll help find where they are inside of this map. So I would encourage people to start. Let's see. So now I see on my top of my list, hey, Christopher, will you add in a landscape for us? And James, will you bring in like a sky atmosphere or something? And you know, let's start with that and see what happens. Or we can use like the environmental light mixer, right? And I'll add in a skylight, atmospheric light, sky, volumetric clouds, height fog. All right. So do you guys see these things?
I saw the lights turn on. Oh,
Yeah, cool.
my landscape disappeared.
So I hit the save button, and this is something I'm trying to get used to. It really is more of a modification tool. It's not a tool for creating things. It's more about editing things that are already there. So it's still debatable in my mind whether or not you can hit the save button. So when I hit the save button, I might have overridden your thing, and I could see that like it's being modified by a bunch of people at once, which is interesting. So anyway, it'll be fine for right now. I'll try landscape again.
Should I try save all?
Yeah, try it. Yeah, see if that works. I'm not sure if we should be saving or if we shouldn't be saving. We should or shouldn't be. So try it. Try both. If you look at your go ahead.
Sorry for a bad doubt, but I'm opening my multi-user browser, and how do I view the level? Because it just says, it shows me all the additions, but it doesn't show me how to view the level. Yeah.
Sure. 1 second.
Mhm.
I am definitely a little crashy.
Okay.
1 second.
I just
There
wanted
you
to
go.
see that, Chris, I can see the landscape now. I don't
Really?
know. Yeah.
So you should see a thing called end class at the
Yeah.
top that you need to double click
Yeah.
on. So just give it a double click.
I can see the same window, but I'm not able to join the level. I mean, I am Ritz in the one. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
great.
me, but I'm not able to see the level.
You can't see the sample level. Double click on the end class. The hyperlink next to me.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay,
And
now.
then
Yeah.
there you go.
Yes.
Cool.
Thank you.
What will happen
Yeah,
if we
no,
try
this is-
to
Yeah.
import like assets from external?
So that's why I was saying it's not really a world building tool. It's more of an editing tool. So any assets you import to Unreal right now, none of us will see,
Oh, I see.
right? But if we had already pre-imported them in, like let's say we've already done the homework and everything's already been committed, then we can import assets. So feel free to go into like the ArchViz tab and bring in assets from there. Like there's a tree. And we can start placing trees.
Ooh, chilly. Tree.
Right?
Oh, why not muted?
Nice. I love it. We got the tree of life. Cool. You can add in boxes and you can add in, primitives or whatever. Obviously this is a very limited palette for right now, but it's a good place for us to start. And we've got a ton of people in. This is the most people I've ever gotten in successfully. And so you can see on the multi-user browser, it shows all the changes that are being hosted in that server and version control, right? So that's all. That's also really, really cool. And we go back to the presentation to make sure not to skip any steps. All right. So if you do look at version control, you see that version control is no longer saying subversion. It's now going to say the version control is multi-user. It's that server that's open, right? We already went over changing colors. We've already talked about how to navigate around and find each other. So now let's do a sequencer. I would like for everyone to create a sequencer and call it, whatever you want to call it. Your name sequencer. I'm gonna make a folder underneath assets for sequencers. There you go. So I've now made a folder. Everyone seems to be gone though. Let's see. I don't see anyone anymore. Let's see where everyone is. Oh, they were just under the ground. Okay. Cool. So I want everyone to create their own sequencer and add in a camera and make a little camera move. Like keep it at the default of 5 seconds. We don't need to make it too long, but add in your sequencer, add in a camera, and animate that camera. Ooh. While you guys are doing that, I'm gonna make it one more sequencer called main sequencer. I'm gonna add a shots track. And then I can start loading in everyone's sequencers. Cool. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Got half the class in. That's pretty good. All right, so if I open up the main sequencer, I can see everyone's takes now that I load them in. Looks like my camera got screwy. Some funky things are definitely happening. I'm noticing that my camera keeps on getting deleted from the level, so either I'm making a mistake or somebody's playing a little aggressively. Cool. All right. So now if everyone can go back to my computer screen, or we have some things in the chat. Right. So some things are making, there's some mistakes that are happening, that things are getting deleted. I don't know if that's because somebody's saving or it's because we're not saving. I think that if no one saves, nothing should be deleted. Again, this is not for creating worlds, it's more about just altering them. But for right now, we'll just move on and go to the next part of the presentation. So we can take a quick little break. So there's ways of working together with sequencers and linking playback, which is kind of cool. So I'm able to control all the sequencers with all connected clients at one time. Right. So there's a few buttons on the sequencer that you might see. So if I open up the main sequencer, where we've got a couple of takes already loaded in, we see now the sequencer has a couple of buttons on the top, right? We have multiplayer sync. So if this is enabled, playback and scrubbing of the sequencer will be synchronous across all users. So if everyone opens up the main sequencer, you'll see that you can see my scrub head going. there's also a setting where we can synchronize across all computers. Let's see. See, like right now, where I think we're fighting over the sequencer, which is kind of funny. Right? So now I'm seeing what other people are doing. I can turn that off and I can just say, hey, watch what I'm doing. Right? So this should be moving for other people. All right. And then there's another thing called multi-user remote open. So I'm gonna click this one. Everyone close your sequencer. And then when I open up the sequencer, it's going to force open the sequencer on everyone's computer. Did that happen?
I don't see it.
You don't see it
No.
again?
No.
Okay. Let's see. Maybe I have to do both of these things. Try again. Boink. Did it do it?
Nope.
Nope. And you had a sequencer all the way closed?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, well, whatever. Those aren't the most interesting features, but there's something that I wanted to point out. These buttons are here, and the documentation says they should do things, but apparently they're not. We'll move on. Again, this is kind of funky, but I want to make sure you guys knew that this stuff's here. Okay, so let's say we're done and we want to move on. All right, I need everyone now to leave the session. Right, so it's been a great having you here, but if everyone could hit the little exit button on the top right that says leave this session, this little arrow pointing to the right, and you all go away. Including me. And I'll go into the remote computer. All right, James and Yen, once you guys go away, I'll show you the next step. Here we go. So now it's just the one computer that has the server open. All right. So I am going to also leave. You're about to leave a session containing changes. Do you want to persist the changes? Yes. These are all the changes that were made. Right? They're the sequencers of the map we just made. And I'm going to submit it to source control. And class session. Submit. It is now updating everything to source control. Which takes a little longer inside the engine. And hopefully this works. All right. It looks like everything is done. And then I have my session. I could choose to archive or delete it, or we can always continue to use the session. You can have multiple sessions in one project, which I haven't messed around with before. So we can continue to make sessions. We have my session, and we can persist changes from my session. You can be working in your own thing that you want to persist your own things. So all this stuff is still very experimental, but I just want to show you that it works to some degree. Again, remember, this is our server. And when we're done, we're going to shut down the server. It's gone. And now my sessions are gone because I don't have a server open. If I was to open the server back up, we would see our sessions again, right? Run, close it, it's gone. And then just to be thorough, I will commit. And there's nothing besides a little bit of config files, and which I'm not going to worry about for right now. If I come back to my local, I'm going to pull. And now I can pull all those changes to my local computer. So everyone pulls again, they're at version 70. So there's some magic there. There's definitely some funkiness there. But definitely worth noting about, again, like Christopher, when you're working with Jim, you're basically using this just to sync the two computers. You weren't actually using it as like a collaborative tool, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like we did do persist session changes sometimes, like because we would like change things while we were like working, but it did, like you said, like it had to be stuff that was already in there.
Yeah.
We used a different program for like syncing the files, but like we would like put everything in the project and then like move things around and then persist session changes and then resync.
Cool. Yeah, so there's lots of different ways. What we're doing is definitely just more fun because we're remote and it was a chance for us to see each other again. But you know, that's a tool that we could have available to us. Still, you know, TBD whether or not we use it or not. So let's take a break and then we'll come back at 3:50 and we'll do a power session where I'll show you guys how to do show control inside of the game engine, and that'll be where we go for homework. Cool. I'll see you in 15 minutes. So there's lots of different software you can use for show control, but we're going to be using Max MSP, which a lot of you might know because Luc Dubois, who's the head of the department, used to work for them and he helped create their OpenGL rendering platform called Jitter, right? So you can get a 30-day trial. You can also get free licenses from Elton, the technical director of IDM. And let's see. So if we go to week 11, feel free to go to Cycling 74, download a free copy. We have less than 30 days left for the semester, so your free trial will work for us this semester. And Max is a node-based software, right? So this is the Max console. I'm sure everyone's probably seen it by this point. If not, welcome to Max. And we're going to be using a protocol called Open Sound Control, which is a network protocol that's basically a way of packaging UDP. And you know, we've been talking about UDP already, and they're referring to multiplayer games, and that's how we're like sending messaging back and forth between our computers. So it's tiny little fast internet packages that go back and forth, right? And we're going to be doing using sound control, Open Sound Control. If you've taken my music part class, we used a plugin for this because the plugin is much simpler to learn. But since we're now in a class where we have a little more time to deal with Open Sound Control, we're going to do the native implementation that is inside of the engine. So our project, I don't even know if it's on or not. Let's find out. Let's go to our plugins and look for Open Sound Control. Or maybe just look for OSC. There you go. So it's not on right now. So I'm going to turn it on for us. I know what this is going to do is going to check out the Unreal project file and turn on the plugin. I'll restart. I'll come back to our folder. And now if I push this change, everyone else already will have Open Sound Control added to their project too. Cool. So we'll revisit this next week because this will be a very quick demo. But I definitely want to get you guys started with Max, right? So Max is called patching. You open up new patchers, and while it's unlocked, there's this unlock button down here. I can configure the UI and arrange objects. Then when I want to operate Max, I lock it, and then I can use all the objects that are in my patch. Okay. So it's a data flow programming, kind of like blueprints, but Max goes from top to bottom, right? And it has built-in UI objects, which makes it really easy for show control, right? So it has things like buttons. If I hold down control, I can actually live control the object, right? So it has buttons. These are called bangs. We have, let's see, we have toggles. So we turn things off and on, right? That's sending a 1, that's sending a 0. We have messages. Right, so we can send messages to things, but we can also receive messages. So I can, if you have an outlet here, and I can put it in the inlet here, and we can see that it says it's a bang. I can then take those little handles over here, read the message, and say 101010. Right, so messages can do a lot of things. They're very useful. Then we have objects. So objects, I need to put text in just like you would a blueprint node. So for instance, we want to be able to send UDP. So I'm going to say send UDP. See, it automatically starts to autofill. I see UDP send here. Select that. If I go to the end of the word and hit spacebar, it's saying, oh, well, you can tell it what's the host. The host is the server again, right? We want to send stuff to the server computer, which is 192.168.196.110. That's the computer in the mocap room. Oh, and then the other thing it wants me to do is specify a port. And we've already been talking about ports, right? It says port right here. The default port for OSC is 8,000. Again, you can use almost any port in creative coding. Most creative coding ports between 6,000 and 9,000. Max itself uses 7474 to put the phone home when it tries to find out what if you've authorized it or not. But we also have, if I hold on Alt, I can copy the object. But I also have my own computer, right? I have my local host. I can send it to my own computer, and that address is either I can do it over my VPN, right? So I could do 192.168.196. dot whatever this number is. Right, with 242. So I'm gonna hit C for comment, and I say this is a server computer. And I can zoom in so you can see a little better. And then this is comment my computer, which is the same thing as saying new UDP send 127.0.0.1. That's known as localhost. That's also sending it to my own computer. And again, these things just have to match. So any of these would work. All right, so this is called localhost. All right, and we want to be able to send this information to our to other places, right? So for instance, my server computer, we say is this over here, 110. I can go over to the computer over here. So now I'm in the computer, and I can say open up Max. Start a new patch over here, and I might want to new object, so N for new object, or pull it from down there. Say UDP. I want to receive. I don't care what the port is, because I'll receive it from, and sorry, I don't care what IP is. I'll accept it from every computer. I can accept it from all 18 of our computers. So I just want to make sure that I'm looking at one port only. And again, 8,000 is what I chose one computer. Therefore, I need to have 8,000 on the other computer. And then I can make a new object and print to my console, which is right here. So to connect the outbox to the inbox. And then I come back over to Max on this computer. And if I connect my my server computer, bring down my print string. Let's see if it works. So is it 110? Or 20? So I send bang. You see the computer remotely. So I'm in North Carolina, this computer is in Brooklyn, and I'm sending show control. If I was to then do this toggle, I'm now sending ones and zeros. Right? We also have some other objects. We have numbers. So if we click there, we have a whole number. If I click the down button, I can send float numbers. We can have all these different interfaces, right? So we can have dials and knobs and all sorts of stuff. This is sending 0 to 127, right? It's like a MIDI knob. And if I didn't care about 0 to 127, I can always scale those values and say scale the 0 to 127 to, I don't know, 0 to 1. And then I could send that over to server computer. And you see it's sending from 0 to 1. Right. So Max, these are, I could send you these patches too. So I can select all my objects and say copy compressed. Right. And see somebody else is controlling it remotely. That's so we can all be sending data to this computer, which is super cool. And then if I was to in Slack paste this for you, doink, you can then copy this information right here, and then come to paste from clipboard. And then there you have it. There's the thing I just made. Lock it up, and then you can control it. Unlock it to change the settings, and lock it to control it. Cool. So you have this as a video reference for this for Max. I know that was a very quick overview, but we'll continue to come back to Max and refine this. Just know that you can send numbers and messages, and you can send Booleans, and you can send messages or strings, that kind of stuff. Cool. So that's yes, somebody figured out we could do a meow, which is a message. Meow. You can see it is turning into a little bit of a spaghetti Western. So what you can do also is within here, you can have send and receives that just are a way of tidying up stuff. So hitting N for new object and saying S for send, UDP. And there it goes. And then I could say new object, receive UDP. And this cuts away a little bit of the mess. Right. And then I could send everything to my computer, your computer. I can send stuff to everyone's computer. Again, holding down Alt, mix and drag. I can make copies of things. Cool. Right. So this one's whole numbers. This one's floating point numbers. Great. And again, if I wanted to select everything, say copy compressed, I come back over to this computer that I'm on, and then I have my changes. So you can send things over Slack to each other. Super fun. Great. And so now let's connect this to Unreal. So we have the plugin turned on, and I'm going to come over to my assets, and I'm going to create a blueprint called BP OSC. BP OSC. Cool. Open it up. And Epic is nice to have created us a little OSC UE5. Some documentation, which I'll put in here. And go to my event graph and then go back to there. We can again copy and paste our way to success. We just need to find this is the text documentation. There we go. We don't want to send just yet from Unreal. We want to send, just have it receive. So we want to get messages, right? We want to know what the file path is and what the message is on here. So I'm going to copy, because you can also copy and paste blueprints. And then I'm going to come over to Unreal and paste. There we go. Oops, a little messy. Let me undo that. Come over here, over there. So I want to first of all receive. What am I receiving on? Well, I want to actually receive on the computer in the mocap room, but for right now I'm going to test it locally. So I'm going to put 127.0.0.1 port. We're going to do 8,000. And then I want to create this on event begin play. I'm going to promote this to a variable so I can store this server in case I need to refer to it later. So I'm going to promote that to a variable. And just put it here. Create that link. And there you go. And let's rename that. Again, I'm doing this for you. You won't have to do this because this only needs to be done once for the entire project. So this one's just going to be called OSC server. Cool. Then what happens here is that when I create the server, it says we can now start receiving messages on when we receive OSC, right? So on Vivian Play, only want to hit the play button, create the server to receive all the messages, and then start receiving messages on this event. OSC has to be sent, it's an internet protocol, so it has to be sent on addresses. So this is where we add in putting in URLs. So I don't want to send a bang, because how do I receive a bang? I need to figure out, I only want certain things to be sent to certain places. So for instance, I'm going to do a new object and say prepend. And I use a / because this is an internet address, and say Todd Bang. And then I'll make another object called prepend Todd toggle. And what this allows me to do is get these things on an address, right? So they can be filtered out, and I could do what's called routing, right? So I could say new route Todd Bang toggle. And what it's now done is it says if it comes on Todd Bang, it's going to go here, and if it goes on Todd toggle, it's going to go here, right? So it's a way of routing information. So this one's going to print to here when it goes to Todd Bang, and this one's going to go to this message if I do it on Todd toggle, right? So we could send all our stuff on one giant max patch, but then it can go to different blueprints and be filtered out. So bring it back my max patch, and this one's going to the console, And this one's going to print right here. Right, so that's basically this is called, so this is the idea is we're sending data on URLs or on message paths, right? So if I go back to Unreal, we see that we have the message and we have the IP address, the value right here, right? So let's go ahead and I'm gonna also save the message. So I'm promoting that to. You don't really have to do this. It's like a garbage collection thing. Doink. There you go. And then this wire, we want to go to here instead. There you go. So I'm going to compile. And so I'm receiving on my local address. If I come back here, I need to put the OSC server in the map. Hit simulate. So I can't get the map because this is sample map. So that's in the ArchViz. It's checked out.
It might be me.
That's fine. Can you check it in?
Hold on, let me just see what I did wrong, because I thought I actually updated everything, but I guess not. Okay, hold on.
Well, I don't see your name, so it might not be you.
Okay. It
Oh, crashed my
might,
computer. No big deal. I haven't done anything really. So let me just pull. Update. And then now I have the sample level back. And again, everything's in version control, so everything can be recovered. Do I care? I don't care. So let's see if I still have my blueprint. I don't, that's fine. We can do it again and we'll learn something more from a BP OSC. Throw it in the map. Doesn't matter where. I could check out. So now I'm locking the map so no one else could check it out. Right. I'm checking it out. So now I own it. This is how you're supposed to do it. That's why we make submaps. Right. I should probably be, if I'm working on my own blueprint, I'll put in my own submap. But for right now, this is for everyone's map. And then open it up. And let's see if it's still on my clipboard. There it is. On event begin play. I do it on localhost 127.0.0.1 40,000. Right. I want to go ahead and make sure I'm storing the server because sometimes it can get disconnected. And this is a way to make sure it doesn't. I call this one OSC server. In the same way, same vein, I can save the message if I want to. And you can see I can also filter by IP address. I could say only if I get information from a certain IP address does it matter. But this gives me a place so I can like, if I need to plug in the message down here, I can do that easier. So now, if I hit simulate, and I go over to Max. While you're opening twice. Oh, I did it in a new window. Tweet. That's the last setting we did. Cool. I'm gonna take out the collaborative because I don't really want to have an avatar, but regular game mode, and I'm gonna do simulate. Okay, so now we can float around and do what we need to do. And if I come over to Max, you can see that it's actually getting these values. If I come over to OSC, you can actually watch the data flow. So it's coming through. It has the whole message, right? It's getting the whole message. It's filtering out the address and filtering out the message that's on the address, right? So we have the address and we have the message, and then it's printing to the string, printing to the screen right there. So we have the address and we have the message, right? So I want to be able to send this anywhere in the computer. You can only have one server running in a one project. That's why oftentimes for classes we don't do a lot of OSC, we do the plugin that's a third-party plugin, because you can do as many servers as you want. That is very dangerous to do in professional projects because it creates a lot of redundancy issues. This is the actual correct way to do it. That's why I'm doing it the correct way. Maybe it's a little bit harder, but we're gonna have some fun here in a second. So we don't need to print string anymore, and I don't need to worry about filtering out. This is an important node to know that if I want to grab index numbers, I also can grab float numbers. So if I say get OSC message at bool, at float, at integer, at string, this is how I filter out different types of data. But I'm going to do something we haven't done before, which is called, I want to send an event dispatcher. I'm going to call this one OSC dispatch. And I'm going to say call. You see it has a little letter right there. Yeah, that's right, kids. We used to send paper in the mail. It's going to send it to every other blueprint. We're going to use this OSC blueprint as a parent class that we're going to derive children from. And therefore, all our children are going to get this tap of OSC information without even having the OSC plugin in the, this parent plugin in their level. So I'm going to add this data type. Can I do it this way? No, it's not going to let me. Let's select on it. We need to have two different data types on here on the inputs. We're going to say, give me a pink is a string. We'll say string. And this is the message. And then we're going to add another one, and it's going to be, we'll call this one data. How about that? And then we'll call this one's going to be OSC message. Actually, this is the path, full path. Sorry. And then this one's the message. We need to look for type OSC message. And call it message. Cool. So now we can plug these in. These little nodes, you just double click, create these little nodes. You can highlight them, move them around. Cool. This one's done. Or maybe it's not done. OSC reference current value. Let's see, I did this a second ago. Another project. It's not self. Where do we need to send it to? It was fine. It didn't need any of that stuff. Was go back and see what's wrong with this one. Wow. Define pen for parameter.
Do you have to connect out the outbound part of the bind event node?
No, this ends, this runs once and then it's done. And then this is activated that could continue to send things. I think maybe it's just I need to. New param and message are not the same thing. It's not matching. Let me compile now. Let me do this again, call it. And now it says message. So it was just like an order of operations. I connected the data before I created the name. If I compile now, everything's good. So that was just because I connected this message in here and then I changed what the name of it was and it got confused. That's probably a bug. Well, anyway, so that's all I had to do is now this can send OSC messages anywhere in our project. All right. So save all. You see it says plus. I can add it to the repo if I need to, but we're not worried about doing that yet. I don't need it in my level now. I just basically created a template. Now, there is a thing. Oh, somebody's got a giant blueprint mark. Let's scale it down. Blink. There we go. So now that we have our OSC message, this is inheritance. I don't know if you guys have done this in object-oriented programming, but we want to basically, it's like our instance material. We make a main material that all the instances have the properties of. In this case, we're making what's called a child blueprint class. And we call BP Todd child. Or whatever we want. And then it actually knows about that event dispatcher. It knows about dispatch. That is not a word anywhere in the game engine. Dispatch is not a word. So it knows about OSC dispatch. It's just receiving the data. We need to make sure we're sending the data to all our children. So we're going to get on event begin play. You see it's getting all this information from the parent. Because they get all actors of class. Now, get all actors of class is a very heavy blueprint to pull, especially on tick, but we're only hitting it once. So it shouldn't be, it's not going to be that much of a big deal. So we're going to say, we want all the data going to all the OSC. And then we need to then get all these messages from it. So let us grab a reference to the dispatch again. And we want to bind an event to, or I think it's a sign actually. Yes. So on event begin play, start receiving all that data. Right. So again, for you falling at home, it's actually a sign. OSC dispatch. If I delete it, say dispatch assign. It creates both the function that's going to turn on, right? Because you basically you can also turn off this event. We're just turning it on at the beginning, and then we're having the data and the message we want to have on it. All right. So the same way in Max as we were doing routing, right? We want to only send data on this one if it equals Todd bang, and on this one if it says Todd toggle. We want to I did this in the wrong project. I have too many things open. This is the other project. I could have looked open. Anyway, so we want to first of all, actually turn it back open to make it. It's fine. We want to filter what the path is. So we want to make sure this equals something. And we want to be a string. And what's a string? Well, one of the strings is going to be Todd Bang. And this red value is, if you hover over, it says Boolean. So it's a yes or no. So if it equals Todd Bang, then the if statement in Unreal is called a branch. If Todd Bang, then send the message to something. We want to get OSC message. And again, we're sending a bang. So we just want to send an event. We actually don't have to do anything. There's no data. We just want if it is on this address. Let's start with that. All right. So let's add to this blueprint maybe a light. Reference to it and say toggle visibility. Compile. Todd Child lives in the world. Hit simulate. And now Todd Bang turns it off and on. All right, we can watch it. So it's just if the value is doing there, okay? But there can also be a message, right? So we can have equals toggle. If it's not Todd Bang, look for seeing if it's Todd toggle. And then we can get the message, get message, oops. Get OSC message at bool at index. So a bool again is a 1 or a 0. And then let's add to our viewport a cube. Make it still smaller. Raise the roof. So now we have our light and we have our cube. Grab a reference to it. And we want to say set visibility. And the visibility could be on or off, right? The checkbox. So is it on or is it off? File, go, simulate. Max patch, boom. So bang turns off and on our light, and toggle toggles the visibility of our light. Let's see. Well, we turned it off, so something's working. Do visibility. Oh, we can't overdo it over and over again. Okay. So we have to, I'm riffing here. It's always sending a yes, it's not getting the 0. That's interesting. It should work. What's the definition of crazy? Doing the same thing twice and expecting different results. You work. Turn back on. Turn back off. Let's just debug the value. Let's watch this value. False. False, 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 false. Well, I can cheat and do get OSC message at index and see if integers. Let's try this. We'll watch this value. Compile. I need to put in the message. Again, I could double click on this wire to get out of the way. Compile. And let's try again. All right, it seems to be getting the ones and zeros. Let's see if it's working. There we go. Beating the game at its own, beating the system at its own game. Fantastic. So we're sending these values. What else could we do? We can also send a value of intensity, right? So we have this 0 to 127 to 0 to 1. Let's go to here and stop. Hopefully this isn't too chaotic for anyone, but we can also add in we know that point lights have, we could change any of the settings here, and we want to set the intensity by default at 5,000. So branch, we're going to make a value for equals Todd intense, because he is. Set intensity. And on this one, we want to take the message and get OSC message on float at index. And from here, we're going to grab the value. We plug this into here, and here, and here. And again, I'm putting this in the project so you guys will have my blueprint to look at. And let's hit play or simulate. If we come over to max, give it value, nothing's really happening. Because I didn't send it an address here. So what's cool about max is that I can live code in max without having to recompile Unreal, right? So I'm going to say nuv prepend Todd intense, add it in, and then watch it get really dim, right? And that's because we're sending it a value of 0 to 1, but its default value is 5,000. So we'll say 5,000 dot, and then say 50,000. Again, I haven't stopped Unreal. I'm just scaling values here, and now we have a different scale value here, right? And so what's another thing that people like to do is potentially change the color of the light. So do a new object. There's a thing called a panel. No, there's a thing called a swatch. It's a color swatch. And it's a color picker. If you come here to this little arrow and say, show me the help file, there's this fun thing called the mood machine that's in here. And it's like a drunk walk through color. Who wouldn't want to do that? I'm gonna steal it. Come over here. We don't need that. Keep that over there. And you'll see that as we move it around, it's giving us 3 values. If I hold down and click, you see that it's actually doing a drunk walk through color. All right. So we have 3 values plus a 1 for alpha. And we want to set the light color. But it could be too it's actually kind of confusing to work with lists in OSC with using the native implementation. I need to spend more time playing around with it. So for right now, we can do a new object called new unjoin. And just say, I want to separate out these 3 float values. You see, it now has 3 outlets. And now I can new prepend Todd red. Alt drag Todd green. And Todd blue RGB. All right, so connect the dots. And these can all go to UDP. Lock it up. So now the movie sheet's done. Let's go to Unreal and get this going on. Stop it. All right. I'm just getting started getting crazy with this. Let's see. Right click, duplicate. And we have Todd red. Todd green. Todd blue. I can make a little dot here and pull off from there. And then add some more branches. If it's not any of those addresses, it could be one of these addresses. So branch D. D. There we go. There we go. There we go. If it's not this one, then check that one. If it's not that one, check that one. There we go. You can also be a little bit smarter with this. I'm realizing I'm creating this cascading branch thing. This is definitely showing the logic, but there's a thing called switch on string. That's a much smarter way of doing all this. And then you could just add all these Todd values. You'll put your own name. So I could put Todd bang. Todd toggle. Todd red. Todd green. And Todd blue. All right, so this could replace all of these. And maybe I'll just do it for these down here. So you have both when you look at my stuff. So we don't need these at all. This is that logic. Cool. And now we just need to grab a get OSC message at float bit index. Duplicate that. There we go. Todd red. Oops. Todd red. Todd green. Todd blue. All right, we'll come back to this every week. This is just a bunch of stuff to get you started. And so we have a light, and we want to set the light color. This is a swatch itself, but we want to split it open. And sometimes it's good to store things as variables. So I'm going to promote this, promote this, promote this. And we have red, green, and blue. And we're storing this because we can go to these variables and expose them to cinematics. And that way they'll show up inside of our sequencer later on. But we'll get more to that, the sequencer stuff next week. Cool. I need to send it its message. Let's just double click here. Who else is having spaghetti for dinner? Cool. So now if we hit play, we see we have the mood machine is working. And maybe we need to have it a little brighter. So we can see the lights more. And then every one of these Todd Childs, there'll be many of these, right? So if you're like trying to turn fire off and on, you can have all of it controlled. And each one of them is getting information. Well, nope, it's not. Only one of them is. Let's go over to Max. So just the first one is for right now. This is important. We discussed this in the last few seconds of class. I am definitely going through all actors. I didn't connect it. So I don't want to hit just one of them. I need to make sure I'm hitting all of the actors. There you go. Simple enough and lesson learned. Now all of them are changing color. Great. And then we can also, do we have any particles in here? Oh, just a cascade. Let's just find out this way. No, we don't. Well, so we'll come back to this next week. We'll do some more examples of how to do like skeletal meshes and all sorts of other stuff. But this is get you started. So revisit your little level. And then as long as you're working localhost, make sure that in Max, you are sending it on localhost. So as long as these two match, that's fine. If you want to use your VPN IP, just make sure that that's put in this parent OSC. But if everyone does localhost for right now, that way everyone can do the homework. So everyone should do the 1271 in Max, and that way this patch will work for everyone. And then ultimately, when we're in the studio, we'll change this to the studio computer's address, and everyone can send it that way. Cool. So I'm going to save all. I'm going to close up the project. And then I'm going to do two things. I'm going to save this. I'm going to find our project. This one is fall. And I'm going to create a new folder in here called imports. New folder. And make a folder for show control. That was be called pod. That way you have this here. but also I can do the copy compress thing too. Put it in our week. And then always make sure to commit the project when I'm done. All show control. Cool, so give it a shot. It's all recorded here. And that's fun stuff. And that's how you connect the whole world to Max and to Unreal and Max. And of course, there's gonna be so many other things. It could be MIDI controllers and Arduinos and all that kind of stuff. So just dive in and have fun.